Hello Premiere Pro users, and welcome back to another Week in Premiere video podcast featuring the top Premiere Pro news, tips, and tutorials from the week ending on July 8th, 2016. We've got another exciting round of Premiere Pro goodness for you. Quick shout out though to Norbert and Stan for leaving me some very sweet comments on last week in Premiere's video podcast. I really appreciate the kind words. And just a quick note to anyone else listening, this is a relatively new initiative for Premiere Bro. This whole video podcasting thing is a little outside my comfort zone. So I am appreciative of any critical feedback you might have. Just leave it in the comments section below. And without further ado, let's get started. First up, we have Premiere Pro News. This section features the latest and greatest Premiere Pro stories curated by Premiere Bro for your listening or viewing pleasure. Quick reminder, this is a weekly written blog post. If you go to premierebro.com/weekinpr, PRs in Premiere Pro, you can follow along. First piece of Premiere Pro News comes from Pro Video Coalition. Editor and blogger extraordinaire Scott Simmons here with a fantastic piece of writing on the new proxy workflow features in Premiere Pro CC 2015.3. Now, Scott calls it kicking the tires. I'm going to call it taking a magnifying glass to the new proxy workflows. I'm sure you're well aware that Scott is a fantastic Premiere Pro resource, among other things. But he is not going to leave you hanging as far as getting you some juicy details on the new proxy workflow features. One thing I like about this post is Scott leads off with two smaller little gems found in Premiere Pro CC 2015.3. So right off the bat, you're getting just a lot of great value. So do your Premiere Pro editing skills a huge favor and read this post. All right, next up we have something pretty awesome from a company called Palette Gear. Palette is a fully customizable control surface which is compatible with a lot of Adobe software. And of course, since this is Week in Premiere, we're highlighting the fact that it is compatible with Adobe Premiere Pro CC. Now, technically, if you go on the Palette Gear website, it says that this compatibility with Premiere is still in beta. But I tell you, this week I've seen a lot of great things from people who have used Palette for video editing in Premiere Pro. And just in brief, Palette offers a whole bunch of dials and knobs and sliders which can be magnetically hooked together to form a larger control surface, and then you map each of those units to a function in Premiere Pro. So it's a pretty cool tactile interface with Premiere Pro. And I gotta be honest, when you're using it, you kind of look like you're a video DJ, a Premiere Pro DJ. So I can't wait to get my hands on Palette Gear and give it a try. Sticking with Palette Gear, we have an in-depth review from Johnny Elwin. If you're familiar with Johnny's blog, then you know he likes to go above and beyond when it comes to providing helpful resources for editors and post-production professionals. And this post is no different. Johnny provides just a ton of insight and helpful resources in this review of Palette Gear, specifically how to use it for video editing. So if you're looking to make an investment in this nifty piece of hardware, go ahead and give Johnny's blog post a read, and I promise he will not leave you hanging when it comes to information. Next up is Premiere Pro Tips. These curated tweets are taken from fellow Premiere Pro peers and users. They contain a lot of helpful Premiere Pro information in 140 characters or less. Let's get started. First Premiere Pro tip this week comes from Taryn Van Hemert. And if you know Taryn, then you know that he is a keyboard shortcut fanatic. This guy loves macros, peripherals, control surfaces, anything that'll speed up the Premiere Pro editing workflow. And I feel like sometimes he's half editor, half programmer. sometimes. Anyway, this week Taryn says, at Adobe Premiere, thank you for adding this important feature, timecode of what/where a render has failed. I tweeted at Taryn to see if he could confirm if this was new to Premiere Pro CC 2015.3, and he said that he believes so. So take that for what it's worth. Regardless, this is a really handy feature for troubleshooting why renders have failed, whether it's a problem with the clip, a problem with an effect that's applied, or a third-party plugin used on a clip. This will really help you narrow down what's causing your export to fail. So great tip from Taryn. Next up, we got 4 free transition presets for Premiere Pro, and this comes generously from Chung Da. Now, Chung's describes these as smooth transitions, and let me tell you, after reading the post and watching the examples, these are some smooth transitions. These are very cool, and you get them all for free just for liking or sharing the blog post, which you should just do anyway. So why not? You get 4 free transition presets for Premiere Pro, and they look awesome. Included in the blog post is a tutorial on how to use them, so Chung really lays it out for you. Thanks, Chung. Alright, on to our third and final week in Premiere section. We have Premiere Pro tutorials. These are free tutorials made by Premiere Pro users for Premiere Pro users. And we got a bunch this week, so I'm going to go ahead and get through them as fast as possible and get you all the Premiere Pro information you need in the shortest amount of time. Let's go. First up, we have an amazing Premiere Pro tutorial from Jarle Lerpol, the Premiere Pro wizard out of Norway. Jarle is the guy behind PremierePro.net, and he has just provided a ton of value to Premiere Pro users through his blog. Definitely check it out. So this week he shared how to get motion blur natively in Premiere Pro. Now, if you're a Premiere Pro user for a long time, then at first glance it seems like there is no motion blur available in Premiere Pro, and it's like, why doesn't Premiere Pro just integrate the motion blur from After Effects? But Jarle points out there is a native way to get motion blur in Premiere Pro, and it's buried in the transform effect. So go ahead and read Jarle's post on how you can achieve a native and natural looking motion blur all inside Premiere Pro. Next, we have another Premium Beat blog post by Jason Boone. Jason's been killing it there over at Premium Beat with a lot of great Premiere Pro content. This week he shares some thoughts on track targeting in Premiere Pro. And if you go to the Week in Premiere blog post, you see that I talk about coming from learning Avid in school. It seems like I was restricted by track targeting when I was learning on Avid, and I admit that was a long time ago, and I might have just been dumb. But when it comes to track targeting in Premiere Pro, sometimes I feel it's almost too lax. People forget or don't realize the benefits of track targeting in Premiere Pro. So Jason gives 3 tips for using track targeting, and this is something definitely worth checking out because it will increase the speed and efficiency of your editing in Premiere Pro. Next up is a Week in Premiere must read. This blog post comes from Screenlight. Screenlight is an online video review and approval service, and their blog has been absolutely fire recently. I heavily recommend you check it out. This week, author Nick Haraz, who is a filmmaker and certified Adobe Premiere Pro trainer, writes about 10 features you have to know in Adobe Premiere Pro CC. Now, there are a lot of top 10 features this, top 10 features that. This one is excellent. There's a lot of great stuff in this list, and even if you are a seasoned Premiere Pro editor, I recommend you check this out. Just make sure you've got your bases covered. Make sure you're not missing out on anything totally awesome. So again, I can't recommend this post enough. It gets really deep. There's a lot of cool things in this post. So thanks to Screenlight and Nick Haraz for sharing this resource with us. And next up we have another blog post and video tutorial from Meredith Marsh, who is also known as VidPro Mom. And VidPro Mom is an excellent filmmaking website. It's a huge resource, especially for GoPro filmmakers and Adobe Premiere Pro editors who want to up their family home video filmmaking skills. And this week Meredith shares her custom workspace layout in Adobe Premiere Pro CC for editing GoPro videos. And obviously it's not exclusive to GoPro footage, but that's the whole niche of this website. So go check it out. If you're into home movies and GoPros and Premiere Pro, this is an excellent website. Here we have yet another Premiere Pro video tutorial from Motion Array. These guys have been phenomenal sharing Premiere Pro video tutorials and blog posts as of the past several months. This week they share how to create smoother animation in Premiere Pro, and this is done through the keyframe graph editor in Premiere Pro, where you can change your keyframes from linear to Bezier and all kinds of customization, stuff like that. And Motion Array shows you how to do it. So do your animations a favor and see how to create some more natural, more flowing, more smoother animation in Premiere Pro. Here we are back again with Rocket Pencil Productions. This week Mike Skurs shares with us some tips on using the media browser in Adobe Premiere Pro. Now, some of you may find yourselves thinking, what's the point of the media browser? I can import my footage simply by pressing Command-I. I can grab my media and import it in half the time. The media browser is just an extra step. But it's not. The media browser, once you're familiar with it, is a much more robust, much more functional way to import and, as the name would suggest, browse your footage. So watch this video tutorial and up your importing game in Premiere Pro, and a big thanks to Mike for doing us a solid and making this tutorial. And finally, the last tutorial in this week in Premiere Pro tutorials comes from Best Pro Action. Best Pro Action is a YouTube channel that features a series called How Did They Do That? Or How Did You Do That? Something to that effect. Anyway, it's dedicated to showing how visual effects can be done all within Premiere Pro. And this week, Best Pro Action shows how to reveal a title beneath what appears to be an animating checkerboard of transparency square thingies. It's a really cool looking visual thing. Even if you don't use this exact format, it'll teach you how to be innovative as far as creating visual effects in Premiere Pro. So I recommend you subscribe to this YouTube channel. The Twitter account is not super active or easy to find, so if you subscribe on YouTube, you'll be sure not to miss the next episode from Best Pro Action. Alright, Premiere Pro users, this concludes This Week in Premiere's video podcast. If you made it this far or just happen to be listening to this part, I just want you to know I'm grateful and thankful that you checked this out. Go ahead and leave me your thoughts, concerns, corrections in the comments below. This is still something that I'm growing in. I believe this is only my 4th Week in Premiere video podcast, so I'm still working out the kinks, and I appreciate you taking this journey with me. Have a part in it. Leave me a comment. I'll give you a shout out. Thank you very much for listening. This is Sean Schools, Premiere Bro. See you next week.